Good morning and welcome to Southwest Florida Focus from Clear Channel. I'm Charlie Shue. Today we have a very interesting program, and a program that is so timely. It is from the Charlotte County Homeless Coalition, and Tina Figliolo is with us right now. Tina is the Director of Community Relations and Development. Good morning to you, Tina.
Good morning, Charlie.
You have a plate full over there, I really want to tell you. Let's talk just a little bit about homeless in our county. I understand the number of homeless people have grown tremendously in the last little while. What are we kind of looking at? What is the background of the homeless person we're looking at today?
Well, as the few years, the past few years, I should say, Charlie, that the face of homelessness has changed, and I know I've been on several shows here and spoken about that, and we've talked about how years ago, 3 to 4 years ago, we were looking at the single, male in the woods, homeless, and as the years have progressed, the economy has changed, inflation and so forth, that we have seen more families, an influx of families, single and dual parent families come to us in need. And that's our greatest service right now in need.
Yeah, as you had mentioned, I thought perhaps the perception was that it was the homeless people that were maybe alcoholic or maybe under the influence of drugs. And then I think you said earlier before we went on the air here, well, in many cases that was the truth. But that has shifted now to a lot of families needing assistance, as you mentioned. Now, how does that affect your facilities over there, which were designed years and years ago for like single men?
Right. That's been one of the challenges of the physical makeup of our facility, because on site we do provide emergency shelter for up to 60 days for anybody who needs that service. And one of the things that we've tried to reconfigure is the layout inside. We can't change the building, but we can change what's inside. Mm-hmm. So what we've taken is 32 male beds who we house on one side of the facility versus 8 female beds, because it is separated. We have changed and flip-flopped the makeup. So now we've taken those 32 beds and sectioned them off so that we can house more families. So we're now able to, at one time we were only able to house 7 families. Now we're able to house up to 15. Wow. So we can't change our capacity because by fire code and safety reasons, our capacity still has changed. However, where we are able to house people safely and the numbers, we can move those around. So that's what we've done to accommodate the changing face of homelessness.
What ratio would you say you have now of families to single men that we had talked about before?
Well, now we house about, the maximum number is 8. So 8 single men, but that fluctuates from being full, being in capacity with that, but our need, we still have a waiting list for families, and that consists of 1 adult and 1 child or more. So, like I said, it can be dual parent families or single families, and we accommodate in the shelter for that.
This is just absolutely amazing now. I mean, I've heard of kids that are going to high school living in their cars or living in cars, taking a shower at the school and that. How do you select the people? You say you have a waiting list. How in the world do you select the people? There's so many needs.
So many high in need. And we work very closely with the school board and provide services, and as well as they provide services for us, because we do have coordination with public school buses come to our site. So for instance, if a family moves, is evicted from their home in, say, Punta Gorda, and they come to us and they're living with us, one of the last things we want to do is take that school-age child out of their current school. So we collaborate with the school board to arrange bus service that comes to our shelter up in the Port Charlotte area and picks up that child to maintain a little stability for them. So we try to preserve that and try to maintain that stability for the child, because they're already in a crisis, stressful situation. So that's one of the wonderful collaborations we have with the school board, and then as well they provide services that we don't, and vice versa. So it works out well, but there is a need. It is a first come serve basis, who gets on our waiting list and who gets in, but then also remember that 60 days is the maximum stay. So we're constantly working with the families, getting them linked to resources, moving them on to permanent housing. So whatever those steps are, they're working with a case manager on a daily basis to find whether they need a license or a job, and then get them to that goal of permanent housing, which we have a very high success rate for that.
What do they do if they go 60 days and have not found a place to stay?
Then we have to find other arrangements and we look at other resources. However, that's very seldom that doesn't happen where our residents don't move on to permanent housing.
Yeah.
Now, if a family is, have saved up enough to move out and they need an extra week, we don't on the 60th day say, okay, you have to leave now,
Yeah.
Well, we are accommodating and we look at the entire need as a whole and see how hard they've worked and are they attaining this? Is this something? If someone's going to get a job at the 39th day, because, they've not done what they're supposed to do to get to that point,
Right.
then we have to look at other housing available, possibilities.
It's pretty interesting now. Let me see if I can understand this. You could have a mom and a dad and a child, a
Mm-hmm.
youngster there, right? So the youngster gets picked up to go to school by the school bus.
Right.
What happens to the mom and dad during the daytime?
Well, all of our residents, adults and children, have to be off property. We teach independent living skills. Obviously, some of the skills that some people need in general are to have a schedule. The residents maintain the cleanliness and everything within the shelter. So it's time for them to move on, whether it's a job during the day or it is to work on their case plan in order to attain their goals. So they are not, our residents are not there during the day. They have to leave property and work on their case plan.
Yeah, so
Whatever that may be.
case plan basically meaning try to find a job in some instances or whatever.
Or
Find a
reinstate
place to live,
benefits,
or-
if it's something where they've maybe lost benefits and they need to go work on that. It may be
Yes.
in order to get that job, they need to obtain their birth certificate, to get the license, to get their, to obtain
Yeah.
employment, or just whatever they need to get to reach their goals, individual. And we work with them. We have case managers and volunteers who work on that with the family, whatever resources.
So they can't hang around there.
Nope.
They've got to get out and
No,
look for a
no.
job or do something
It is
similar to that.
it is a program. We are not just a shelter.
Yeah.
So it is very, it is very structured, and it's very, it's a program that teaches certain normal daily living skills as well as getting them back on track. With any stressful situation, that can be just hard to maintain on a daily basis. So we
Yeah.
help with that.
You talk about it's a program, and it's not just shelter, right? You
Right.
say you've got to feed these people,
Right.
and there's got to be some evening thing after dinner where they have to be able to study homework and
Right.
that kind of stuff. So it's a total family living type arrangement that
Right.
you have to take care of. How do you handle feeding all of these people, et cetera?
Well, the wonderful thing is that we provide breakfast for the residents as well as anybody comes in the morning. That's usually about 60 individuals, including the families. People stay on site as well as the public if they come by for breakfast early in the morning. But at night, we have dinner service 7 days a week, 365 days of the year from 5 to 6 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
So we provide hot meal service every day, every day of the year. And that is provided by our part-time cook. Helps with the coordination of that. However, local businesses, corporations, faith-based organizations, families provide the food and the volunteering for every service.
That's really
So
amazing.
it's a huge collaboration and coordination of all services coming together and be able to put that on every day of the year.
You must have hundreds of volunteers then.
We do. We have hundreds of volunteers that come through our doors on a monthly basis, and that we couldn't do it without them. We run our operations about 80% of volunteers. We only have 12 full-time staff and a total of 19, the remaining being part-time. So we rely heavily on our volunteers and supporters to help us.
So some of the residents that you have there have applied to you for a place to live, I would gather, and others are recommended. Is that how that works?
We refer to landlords, private landlords who have rental units in the county, as well as we also have our transitional housing. We have a few houses that we can move some families who have stable income into at very affordable prices. We also collaborate with local apartment complexes and developments to provide housing, affordable housing. However, that is one of our challenges, to find enough affordable housing for our residents moving on.
Yeah, absolutely. So really, you're an ombudsman right in the
Yeah.
middle there, trying to get everything
We-
done
yes.
and working with the
Yes,
people like
yes. Sometimes you have to, do it, be very resourceful, and our great staff help provide that, and we get creative.
that. There are certain issues, I think, maybe if someone is late on their rent or having a problem with their rent and comes and applies to you, do you try to help them figure out a way perhaps maybe to get their rent taken care of before they become involved
Yes.
in your organization?
Yes, that's another one of our major programs, homeless prevention, and that is a program that helps residents in Charlotte County who are already housed, if they're late on their utility bill, or if they're late on their rent, that we help keep them housed. We do not want them to become homeless, obviously. However, so we assist to prevent that. And
Yeah.
that's a wonderful program. That's actually how I started with the Homeless Coalition years ago. That was the program I ran for a couple of years. And so that provides a great service. One of the requirements is that the residents do already have an income. So we have to project. So it is a certain population of people. You have to have income. There's certain guidelines because that is usually provided by grant money.
Yeah.
State, federal, or local, and United Way helps supplement that as well with their Season of Sharing program.
Yes. Does some money come from the county as well?
Yes,
It
yes.
does. The state,
We-
county, and maybe
We
federal
have,
help.
yes, we have several sources of our income. One being one of the most largest pieces of income that come to us is state. Years ago, for our homeless prevention program, we had our federal stimulus money. We were able to increase and help families for up to $1,200 per household. Unfortunately, after a few years in decreasing that, that money's obviously exhausted. So we've moved on to other state grants, and that's now down to $150 per household. So even though the need is still there, the available funds have been decreased. So that's where we start partnering with other agencies, in this case United Way, the Season of Sharing funding. So we kind of piggyback on that with each other, and then also refer to local churches and organizations that do the same thing, because this program is actually simulated throughout the county in many different organizations and nonprofits and church-based.
A lot of networking.
Yes, we
This
do.
is much more huge than I had ever imagined.
It really is. It's a huge collaboration, and that's one of the things in this county. We don't want to duplicate services if we don't have to.
Right.
If it's not needed, I should.